It's the Hall Institute of Public Policy's Forum. My name is Michael Riccards. Robert P. Haney is our guest today, a member of the State Board of Education. Bob, you've been on the State Board for a couple of months. What have you changed?
Well, you know, it's interesting that you should ask that.
Does the Raritan River still run through Rutgers?
It does. I actually have the honor of being the chair of the Code Committee, so one of the things that the Code Committee does is go over every line of code and try to make sure that it's clear and accessible to everybody. One of the things, actually, that there are a number of advisory boards for example, professional learning and development, both for teachers and for school administrators. And one of the things that I've been trying to push is that when you have these advisory boards, that in addition to the important input from the Education Committee on these, from the education professionals on these boards, there ought to be business people and people from the community on these professional advisory boards as well, to round out the advice that they're getting. And so I've maybe had some impact on that, and I have been spending some time trying to shape the regulations related to the standards, working, of course, with the community and interested parties, meeting with people from various associations that have an interest in this, along with the Department of Education.
You've been intensely interested for years in the question of scholarships for students of need, and then you've been very interested in the whole question of tuition costs. The latest study that's been done by the College Board shows that tuition costs have escalated far above the cost of living. That whether it's a good year or a bad year, tuition costs continue to go up. Would you talk a little bit about where you think we should be going on that issue?
And this relates to what we were talking about before with higher standards for high school graduation, because what the statistics show, Mike, is that the key ingredient to success, to economic success in the 21st century economy, is a college degree or post-secondary education. The real incomes, even of people that have high school diplomas in inflation-adjusted terms, have been steadily declining over the last 20 years. And so unless someone has some special training in high school or some additional training or college after high school, the likelihood in the future is that that person will not really have the economic opportunities that are necessary to live a good life in America. And that's a huge responsibility that we as public policymakers have. Now, I've been working, begun to work on the State Board of Education to try and make sure that we're giving kids the preparation for college so that they can do the work. But another extremely important issue that I had previously been involved in is accessibility of higher education. Because higher education, unlike public elementary and secondary education, has a cost. It has tuition. And in New Jersey, our tuition has been going up, as you say, much higher than the rate of inflation, and has now become inaccessible, not just to some low-income people, but often many times to people in the middle class. A parent earning $30,000 or $40,000 a year who has a couple of kids that want to go to the state universities would have an enormous amount of difficulty paying for that, and the kids would have difficulty paying for that. So we could be in a position where we're preparing our kids very well for 21st century skills to go on to higher education, but the kids can't afford to do it. And so one of the big challenges for us in New Jersey is to ensure accessibility of higher education across the board to all people, because it's really a necessary ingredient for success in the 21st century.
The first week of March, the beginning of March, you're going to be honored. The first time we've done this, the Hall Institute will give its distinguished award to you, and we're going to be looking at the question of public policy. As the country gets more involved in public policy, with Obama's election, for example, the tremendous changes taking place, what should you tell the average person about the efficacy of studying public policy? Do they have enough time in their lives to really be worried about public policy?
Well, that's a very good question, Mike. I mean, we have no choice but to be involved in public policy because the quality of our decision making in a democracy is a direct result of the input that we get from people across the board. I mean, we have selecting the right candidate to be elected to a public office is crucially important, and especially in times like these of real crisis in our country, where we're facing an economic crisis as well as a foreign policy crisis. You realize that government plays an extremely important role in our lives. Now, it can't do everything, but good public policy can often make the difference in terms of the quality of the nation's life. And the point I was talking about before, just higher education, getting people the education that they need is crucial, and having leaders and a sophisticated debate, public debate about that is crucial.
What leads you to really leave some time away from your public practice with Covington and Berlin and decide you're really going to look at education issues, tuition issues, public welfare issues, pension problems?
Well, the short
There's
answer
only a
is,
certain number of hours in a day that a person can devote to life.
well, the short answer is it's what I love to do, and I get to meet people like yourself who have a similar commitment to improving our public life and improving public policy. And so I'm interested in it, and I like to do it, and it makes you feel like you're doing something important.
You went to Harvard Law School. Is that correct?
That's right.
And then you went to the John F. Kennedy School of Government, which is very different. What's the approach? How are the approaches different? My daughter's a lawyer from Tulane. I think you people are trained to think differently than everything else. When you were there at Harvard, still doing the case method at the law school?
Yeah.
And then you go to the John F. Kennedy School of Government. Is there a different way of thinking about the same type of issue?
Well, there's a little bit. I mean, the Kennedy School's program is actually based on the business school's program, and it's very analytical and very mathematical. So in that sense, it's different. Lawyers are very focused on text, what is on the words and what the words mean, whereas business people and public policy makers are focused on the real world and measuring the real world and trying to figure out what the impact of a change in policy or in a change in business practices is going to be in the real world. So it's a different mode of analysis, but like everything, good, clear thinking is good, clear thinking, and what hopefully both of the schools taught you to do is try to address problems in a practical way and be disciplined and learn what to do.
Thank you very much. I've been delighted to have the opportunity to talk with a friend and a colleague, Robert Haney, who has just been appointed to the State Board of Education and also has a long history of interest in the questions of tuition, scholarships, and opportunity and access, which are so important to the American people. Thank you for joining us.